Kate, you did a great job today. Did a great job. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Any children that would like to come up and have a conversation are more than welcome. London, are you going to hang out with me today? All right, brother. We got to have a conversation about something because it's going to inform. Is that cool? Everybody, this is London. You say hi to everybody. Hi, London. All right, let's have a seat right here. First of all, is this kind of weird being up in front of everybody? I think so every Sunday. Anyways. So, here's my question. Who's the boss? Jesus? That's a great answer. That's a great answer. Who's the boss in your home? Your mom. Mom? You got that? Who do you think the boss is here? Who's the boss at your school? Your teacher. Okay. And the principal, right? So there's a few people there, right? There's a few people here too. Sometimes people look at me and they think I'm the boss because I wear all the fancy clothes. But you know what? I'm set aside to do one particular thing here. Celebrate the sacraments and to walk with all these folks out here. To walk with you as a companion. And I serve at the pleasure of what's called the vestry, which is like the elders of the church. And so in a way, the wardens of the church are my boss. Yeah. But sometimes in the church, we don't really think of it like that. Like where there's one person on top, and then there's all of us on the bottom. Sometimes the way we need to think about who the boss is to flip that and make a circle. Because everybody, see every one of them people? This is their church, just like it's your church. They have as much say as you have as much. You realize that? And then it's my job to come along and raise you up, to do the work that you've been given to do. Yeah? And so what do you think makes a good boss? I don't know either. But today Jesus was talking about something called authority. Did you hear that? That's a weird word. Because it doesn't mean boss. I think it's something that informs and strengthens leaders who can be bosses. But that the best leaders, the best people who have authority are the people that raise us up, see who we really are, that know us and love us, just like your mom, just like your teacher and your principal, just like me, and just like them. Cool? All right, you can go, because I know it's weird. Miss Teresa, are you going to take them upstairs? All right, cool. Well, I'm not going to sit here and give my sermon. I'm just thinking that I got to get up now. Okay, you'll take that. All right. All right. London, you're a champ. Thank you. So I used to love it when my grandmother would tell stories about my dad after he died. One of my favorites involved the two of them when my dad's family was stationed at Pearl Harbor. As a line officer in the fleet, my grandfather was often out on patrol in the Pacific, which left my grandmother and my dad at home alone quite often. And I asked her about those moments when she sort of reared my dad as a single mom, And she told me once that when my pop came back after a particularly long underway, that after seeing his dad, my dad looked at my grandma and said, "You're not the boss anymore." Little did he know. Wasn't long after that my grandmother overheard my grandfather saying to my dad, who could be a little hellraiser, "You know, son, I don't know how this is really going to work, if you don't mind what I say." And my memory goes in and out of that conversation I had with my grandmother, but I do remember on that day, I hadn't heard her laugh that hard in a really, really long time. And so this past week, I was actually looking for a sermon that my dad had written about this particular gospel. And as fate would have it, when I opened up his folder of homilies, I found his remarks that he offered at his dad's funeral. Most of what he said had to do with the character of a man who found himself having authority over sailors for his entire life. And my dad's words revealed something humbling about the yoke of leadership, that the very best leaders possess deep within themselves a sense of authority that seeks to lift up the spirits of those that they are privileged to lead. And while Jesus doesn't say as much in Matthew's gospel this morning, we all know that the authority Christ bore raised up the entire world. And so you might say that Christ's leadership most often was characterized by a power under that raised people up, rather than a power over. Under in the sense that Christ raised people up, brought them into greater light because he was the light. More so than having a top-down approach, which usually seeks to maintain authority through the mechanism of control. I think we all might agree that Christ sought not to control, but to convert, to companion rather than condemn, and to cherish the charisms of the meek, much to the chagrin of the chief priests of his day, than he did worrying about answering questions that misunderstood one of the most fundamental characteristics, I should say, of one who actually possesses authority. Having compassion. Come on, isn't the story that we hear this morning a little ridiculous? You could say, yeah, it's in the Gospels, Nick, but yeah. They asked Jesus, "Who gave you authority? You're healing on the Sabbath? You're curing the sick? You're feeding the hungry? I told you could do that." Does it matter? So as much as Jesus might be seen as being crafty here, catching them at their own game, I imagine he might have been a little frustrated with those who are more concerned with maintaining the integrity of the chain of command, when everybody who has ever been under one knows that the greatest service one can render those they serve with is to live for the one next to you. To concern yourself more at times with their safety than your own, because our first duty as leaders is to those we serve, not ourselves. Christ came to serve, not to be served. And if one's sense of authority is derived from the services rendered to them by those under their care, then one's sense of authority is confused with self-interest, not reciprocity. It's confused with egotism rather than altruism. And perhaps the lure of self-fulfillment rather than the Christian invitation of self-emptying love that leads one towards the cross itself. And don't get me wrong here. I'm not saying that as a Christian you can't experience self-fulfillment. What I am saying, though, is that if one wishes to save their life, they will in fact lose it. But those who wish to lose their life for Christ's sake will find it. And you've heard that before, 100 times. The prophet Isaiah once wrote, "For a child has been born for us, a son given to us. Authority rests upon his shoulders, and he is named Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. His authority shall grow continually, and there shall be endless peace for the throne of David and his kingdom. He will establish and uphold it with justice and righteousness from this time onward and forevermore. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will do this." The zeal. You may recall that we revisit Isaiah's prophecy the closer we get to the Feast of the Incarnation, which, since today is October 1st, is nigh upon us. Almost 2 months away. And if you can channel that, you'll remember the lines of the hymn that goes, "Once in royal David's city, there stood a lonely cattle shed, where a mother laid her baby in a lowly manger bed. Kings ventured there following a star. Gifts they bore." You know the story. You know the story. Shepherds, seraphim, kings, and even cattle bowed before a babe. On whose authority? Herod's? Caesar's? How about love's? And maybe that's all we need to know about Christ's authority, if we think about it.